Good to see you all, and welcome to this video interview with Carlien and Julie from Clarity Kit. Welcome, Carlien and Julie, and I invited them here to have a chat about clarity, especially gaining clarity as a new entrepreneur, and also to gain confidence, because sometimes it can be quite scary and a bit uncertain at the early stages of entrepreneurship. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And I was really fascinated when I oh, there are my headphones, my earphones. I was really fascinated when I saw you on Instagram when you shared about clarity and what that means. And I'm really fascinated to hear why you started Clarity Kit, and maybe you can give a short introduction on why you started on this journey together.
Sure. So Carlien and I are friends before we became anything else, business partners. And even before we became friends, we started our journeys with introspection. So Carlien, about 5 years ago, I think, or 6. 6? 4? Oh, 4. Myself, 3 years ago, we found ourselves in a situation, in a life that completely didn't feel like a life that was actually right for us. So it was kind of a life by what I call the little book of expectations. Yeah, I don't know who wrote it. Yeah. But we certainly didn't write it. Yeah. We certainly didn't write it ourselves, and we found ourselves in this situation, each separately, of course, where we had everything that was called success. We had great jobs, promotions and good salaries. We had beautiful places to live, steady relationships that looked really great from the outside. But we had this kind of like yeah, I don't want to say crisis, because it was actually a beautiful inside, but this realization all of a sudden, like, whose life am I living? It's not my own. And this is how we both separately started doing introspection, because, well, if it's not by the little book of expectations that you want to live, then where are you going to find your inspiration for the life you actually want? The only place will be inside yourself, because the outside world will give you another new book of expectations. And so that's how we started our own journey. And that own journey led us to create lives that are much, much better for us. Carlien even became such a believer in introspection that she started a company that organizes introspection retreats for CEOs. Wow. and other leaders. And I started writing again, and I started writing stories about introspection and helping people, to look at life from a different angle than the one provided by that little book of expectations. So we really changed our lives for the better. It's simple, but that's it. And because introspection helped us so much, we also made that really big part of our lives. So we both created a daily practice for introspection, and at least twice a year, sometimes more, take time off to do a few days of introspection. And I think we met during the time we were forming those habits. And of course, we really connected over that. We were like, oh, it worked for you too, cool. And we've become closer and closer friends. I actually moved in with Carlien, so we're housemates.
Getting married.
Wow, even getting next level.
Going next level. Yeah, no, I needed a place to stay, and Carlien is, well, she's an amazing friend, so she offered me a room. And we talked about it more and more and more, and we kind of, by living together, created these habits together, did meditation challenges, etc., etc. And it became a really big part of our lives. And actually, to the extent that we were kind of at the same time going through our introspection moments, of course, separate, because we don't want to influence each other. And more of our friends started asking, but how do you do that then? Because I kind of also want to do it, and it looks looks really good for you. Like when we see you after these introspection weekends, it's amazing. Like you've made so many decisions and you're really living a life that's right for you. And suddenly this idea, I always say it fell into our heads.
Yeah.
Because we were not in the same place at that time.
Yeah.
But on the same day, we had the idea of, why don't we create something that can help people do the same thing that we do for ourselves? And that was insane. You know, we don't per se believe in magic, but that did feel very magical.
Yeah.
Or, well, maybe now I do believe in magic because of that. And that's where Clarity Kit was born. That was really the idea of Clarity Kit. We called it Introspection Kit first, because that's what you do. You do introspection. But actually what you get is mental clarity. So that's why we came up with that name.
Beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful story. And I'm pretty sure that so many people can relate to your story, the little book of expectations that most of us tend to live, and have also not really questioned, like, is this really the thing I want? And is there something else? And if there is, like, where do I find it? Is it something that I can Google? Is that something that I can just find under the mattress? It's also pretty hard. Like, where can I find it? How do I do that? So yeah, thanks. And I can imagine this is really magical because we never planned on doing that. Like it just created itself and fell in your lap. And then it's like, please do something with me. Create a product, create something.
Yeah.
So that's really beautiful. And especially if you're into entrepreneurship and you want to do something yourself, or, you know, like, okay, I know that this isn't it, but what is it? Like, what is it that I actually want? Can I do that? Like all these questions, there's so much mindset work that I also like to zoom in on that. Like there's this quote, like, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Yeah, is that something that you can relate to? Like, how do you think that is connected? If you're new to entrepreneurship and you want to do, like, set up your own business or do something else, like, how is it that this is so hard?
Yeah, I think that every aspiring entrepreneur experiences that, because I think the one thing you never get any course on at school or at university is entrepreneurship. And there's some attempts to learn it, but actually entrepreneurship, I think, is one of the biggest schools of life.
Yeah.
Like you learn so much about yourself in that process. And the first thing, it always starts with an urge to do something different, to do something new, to create something from a blank sheet. So that's where it always becomes scary, because there's no prescription on how it needs to be done. And so we're so much used to living in our comfort zones. The book of expectations is actually similar to the big comfort zone. And at least for me, until I was 30, I didn't take any decision consciously. It was all like a consequence of what was logical to do. You study this, so then it's logical to go and work for that and that company. So it's always logical, it's in the comfort zone, and therefore it's easy. And when you become an entrepreneur, it's for most people the first time in their lives that they have to think really true about what they want to do, how they want to do it, with whom they want to do it. So there's loads of questions and there's no prescription on how to do it. So the blank sheet, it's almost like like a writer who's got a writer block. Like there's nothing and you have to put something. And for many people, we're not used to that. And I think the other thing is that for me, the most successful entrepreneurs I met, they don't think so much. They actually just do a lot, and they try a lot, and they experiment a lot. And I think most of us were not really trained in that. Most of us we're really trained in thinking through. When you come from a corporate background, for instance, the first thing they teach you is to make business plans, to anticipate what's gonna happen. But it's difficult to create a business plan for something like, for instance, Clarity Kit that doesn't exist. So it's very difficult. And so the insecurity, I think it comes from the blank sheets, the fact that we're getting out of the comfort zone. I think it also comes a bit from our culture. At least I think I can say Western Europe, apart from the UK maybe, is pretty risk averse. So we're also taught that failing is not an option. And so we're super scared to try things. And then I think from my own experience, when I first launched, before this 4 years ago, the retreat company, what you start doing when you want to become an entrepreneur is talk about your idea and test it with people, which is nice because you get a lot of insights, but it's also very scary, because the more you talk about it to people, the more different opinions you get, the more people say, oh, I don't think it's gonna work. And so a lot of what happens a lot is that people project their own fears on you, and then if then you take that seriously, there's always a reason why it will fail. There's always a reason why it will fail. And so you don't dare to do it anymore. And so, yeah, I think the mindset and the confidence is a very challenging factor when you're an aspiring entrepreneur. And yeah, I think that for that, clarity is definitely something that can help you in this.
That's really powerful, and that's so true. Everyone will have opinions, if they're true or not, it doesn't matter. Like, people will have opinions all the time, and it's challenging. Like, there's a lot of unclarity. There are a lot of things that you have no clue if it's going to work. I write blogs every week, and I have no clue like what the effect will be in 1 year, 2 years. Maybe only my mom is reading it, could be. So there are so many, and you two are probably could be reading it, but yeah, there's always risk, and that makes us uncertain, right? So, so how about clarity? Like you say, like, we're pretty risk averse, so that we don't like this uncertainty. We don't like stepping into this, like stepping outside of our comfort zone, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So where does clarity come in? How is clarity going to help to be more comfortable with that?
Yeah, so I wanted to just quickly jump in on something you said. You were talking about uncertainty, and we want to have a certainty. And I read a quote, and I don't know who it's from. I can try to find it, but it was something along the lines of confidence is in many ways the opposite of certainty, because when you are certain of an outcome, you don't need confidence. You just need to do it. When you are uncertain, that's when you need confidence, because confidence is trusting that it will be all right, whatever happens. And that's what we need in uncertainty. So we really truly believe that clarity gives you confidence. Clarity, again, does not mean knowing what will happen, but it means that you are clear on what is true for you and what isn't. And if you know that, then you can build that confidence that whatever happens, it will be all right, because it is true for you. I personally actually struggled and still do sometimes a lot with confidence. I'm one of those personality types that gets these random fear panic attacks sometimes. No, not really. I used to get it a lot. Like, I would be completely forgetful of anything good about my own skill set or good about my life, and everything would be like fear, fear, fear. And sometimes I still get these little bubbles of it, but now I know what to do. Because introspection, why it helps you so much through those crises of confidence, is because it helps you to separate what is false, what is an external idea or projection in your mind, versus what is real. And there will be a lot of things that are real that might be scary, but all of the things that are real, you can do something with. Whereas all of the stuff that isn't real, that's like little monsters in your mind that are made up, and that are usually the things that really make us unconfident or insecure, are really things you should, and I'll say it in a very extreme way, you should never listen to. You know, it's the voice of your mother, it's the voice of, you know, that high school teacher who told you you were not smart enough. These are voices that actually don't really exist. You're just making it up. Your brain is making it up, trying to protect you from uncertainties. But life is really lived in, you know, outside of your comfort zone and in uncertainty, and having that clarity you find when you know, okay, these are voices, this is not true, this I can leave behind, and here's the stuff that is true for me. By having that clarity, you can build confidence that whatever happens, it will be all right. And that doesn't mean I'm confident I will make $1 million by the end of this, or euros, sorry, by the end of this year. No, it's more like I'm confident that whatever happens, I can handle it. I'm confident that I have something to share with the world. I'm confident that, you know, I can help people. And that's a kind of motivation that is so much stronger than any kind of fear or trying to build certainty in your life. If that's answered your question.
Yeah, well, that's really powerful. So if I understand it correctly, so you're saying that with introspection, you're trying to separate the voices in your head between, like, you have the inner critic and with all the external voices and external things that are not real. And then there's a part where you have your own inner voice, like what is true to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And by creating this separation, you can make a decision. You can decide what is true for you and what isn't.
Yeah.
And then based on that, you create actual confidence because it's really close to you, right? Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that. And maybe I should have said it like that. It's your inner voice that comes out, your inner compass. And it's so strong. Like, you don't need any certainty when you have a connection with that inner compass, which we often call intuition, because it just feels true. You don't need to know what's going to happen, because you know you're on your path and it's true for you. And also, you don't need to know what's going to happen because you're already enjoying it. And, you know, I'm already happy with this day, so I don't need to know that in a year from now, you know, I will have a big house or whatever. I'm already super happy living with my amazing housemate. And you know, you don't need that certainty when you're just enjoying the clarity that you have.
Yeah, beautiful. Like how come we're so out of touch of this? Like this inner compass. Like I guess we all have it, but why is it so uncertain? Why don't we know how to use it or how to understand it? Or how come?
I like to use the famous metaphor of the snow globe. You know, this snow globe where you see it around Christmas time, where when you shake with it, you see a lot of snow going on. And so I believe that when we in our usual very busy life, the rat race, actually what it's represented by in the snow globe is that you're shaking the snow globe. So when you're busy working, no time for yourself, you're actually shaking the snow globe. And when you shake the snow globe, what happens is that you don't really see very clearly. So it's very blurry almost. And so it's the truth is still there, but you don't see it. And then what happens when you go in silence, you take time for yourself, you reconnect to yourself, you do introspection. What happens is you stop shaking the snow globe, the snow settles, and then what was already there becomes clear again. And so it is really about listening to your inner voice. When you're busy, often you don't hear your inner voice anymore. Or even worse, you hear it but you ignore it. And so slowing down, taking time for yourself, turning your focus inwards, that's really what's needed to reconnect to what is essential to you. And a very busy, active life, unfortunately, it makes that we are often slowly but surely disconnected from ourselves.
Yeah, nice. It also doesn't sound really cool, right? Like it's much cooler to be super busy and working all the time.
I believe that how should I say? I once wrote a quote, it's not a quote, a slogan, and it said, silence is the new luxury, or slowing down is the new luxury. So being busy, I think it's passé.
Nice.
Not cool anymore. Less and less cool. So I think more and more people, especially after this weird year of COVID, more and more people, they realize that being busy is actually a sign of not being in charge of your life. And so I think that's a good evolution. And
that's powerful. That's really strong sentence. So being busy means that you're not in control of your life.
I mean, typical busy indeed.
Yeah.
How are you? And then the answer will not be how are you, but the answer will be busy.
Exactly.
Standard answer.
And maybe just one small thing to add to that, because I mean, we've been there, right? We've been there and like busy and meeting up with friends and then having a meeting and then working nights and whatever, working on a Sunday. Carlien was a strategic consultant, so she definitely knows that. But we actually, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I get a lot more done when I work with focus and clarity. So not jumping from that to that to that and trying to juggle everything, but rather choosing very clearly what my priorities are, because I know for me, this is true. And that might mean not doing a lot of stuff that an entrepreneur is supposed to do. And because there's also some kind of little book of expectations for entrepreneurs sometimes, you know, the one that you see with the Silicon Valley guys, which is like, I was working until 4 a.m. every day and like living off coffee. You know, that's not true for me. It might be true for them, but that's not, it's not cool. It's not something that we admire or look up to at all. And actually it's paying off for us very well to be an entrepreneur with clarity rather than a busy one, right? So I think that's an important message to maybe also give to your audience is, you know, there's not, the hustle is not the path to success. Your path to success will be something you find inside yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I totally agree. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people start to realize this. This is happening. This is happening, but it's looking for a form. It's looking for a way to get out there. That's something that I feel personally. Like we have all sorts of forms and shapes, like how this wants to get out. And I've lived in I've lived in Ubud on Bali for 2 years. And that's maybe a bit of an extreme example. And it was also not by that. There was like, I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And it was amazing. But at the same time, it was also really challenging. And there's also a lot of self-reflection and people getting out of a job they don't like anymore and want to make big changes. But it's also a bit extreme. Like, we don't have to travel to Bali or to the other side of the world to find clarity or to find answers, right?
Because they're inside you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I guess we don't always know how to do that. And if you Google that, then you get like, yeah, maybe do meditation and the answers will pop up. Yeah. Maybe we need a bit more guidance. So how can you share maybe like how that works? Like how, of course, there are some practices and some thing, like a lot of people might know that you can do meditation or just slow down but there has to be more, right? So how does that work? Like how can you find this clarity using introspection?
Well, I don't think meditation is the wrong answer, for sure not. I think I personally practice meditation every day, and it's super useful to maintain your clarity. But I do agree that when you feel like your head is full of chaos and that snow, you need a bit more than just 20 minutes of sitting in silence. That said, it all starts with silence. It all starts with letting that snow sink to the bottom. And in that sense, it is kind of useful to be somewhere outside of your normal habitat. So when you talk about Bali, it's a bit of a cliche place to go for introspection, but it's also a beautiful place I've visited. And I can imagine it is helpful to be somewhere where you're close to nature and far away from friends and family, even time zone wise. So you really get this kind of silence around you. And if you have silence around you, it becomes easier to find the silence inside of you. So what we always recommend, it's not a secret at all, but it's also the first thing you do in Clarity Kit, is you put away your phone completely, like it's off, and it's even like in a box, and the box says do not open, it's
not allowed.
You put away yourself or your family, so you try to create a space where you are not distracted by anything, ideally out of your home, and then you're left with you and some exercises. And the first exercise you'll do is not to meditate, but to sit and observe what's going on in your mind and just let that snow settle. And then we do a couple of exercises that tackle different aspects of the things that might be blocking your clarity or might help you find your clarity. So one of the exercises I find super strong, and I'd love to share it with your audience, it's also in the Clarity Kit, is facing your fears. We compare kind of, when we talk about walking your own path, we compare fears as like thunderclouds that we see in the distance hanging above our path. Reasons why we would say, no, this path looks scary, let's not take it. But the thing with thunderclouds is often no rain comes out, or often maybe rain comes out, but is it really that terrible if you get a little bit wet? So the exercise we do is, you sit down, you take some time, and you let your fears bubble up, and you identify what they are. And then for each of your fears, you go and investigate how real they are, or how realistic the worst case scenario is. Many people have a fear of something to do with money, not being able to pay their mortgage, not being able to feed their children,
Being
homeless. That was
oh yeah. I had that one as well.
Oh really? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, being homeless, living under the bridge.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
But if you really investigate that, you know, you would have to, for me to be homeless, for example, I would have to lose all of my friends and family, not have any income at all, and have reached a point of zero on my savings balance. All three of which are very unlikely.
And forget about your degree.
And yeah, and forget the fact that I can actually get a job, you know, somewhere. So super unrealistic. Like there, at least one of those three fallbacks will be there. You'll have some savings, or you'll have a job that gives you money, or most likely your friends, you know, friends or family will help you with that. So I think it's a super strong exercise, and we don't do it enough, facing your fears. So naming them, and then really having an honest conversation with yourself to say, look, how realistic is this really? And then I kind of felt ridiculous afterwards, because I was like, yeah, no, it's not at all realistic. But I had to do the exercise to find out. And then you dare to take new risks. So that's one very strong exercise that I think I would recommend.
Yeah, and then another one, which is particularly interesting for aspiring entrepreneurs, is the exercise about strengths. Because as said, entrepreneurship is not something, a course at school. So it's not something you can learn. So what it requires is that you really go deep into understanding of what is actually the value you bring to the world, and what makes you unique in this world. And what's interesting there is that often people think people are not really aware of their strengths. So that's already the reason why it's an interesting exercise, because the strengths for many people they are the things that come very natural. Oh yeah, but that's not difficult. But yeah, for you it's not difficult, but for me it's very difficult. And also people think they have to be the best at something before it can be labeled as a strength.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so interesting, because it's the unique combination of strengths of each person that makes you very unique in what you can contribute to the world, to your new startup. And so it's an exercise that really makes you reflect on the strengths, also by asking you the question, what is it that people come to you for? What do you usually help people with? And it's a different way to look at strengths. Yeah, usually people come to me. For instance, for me, one of my strengths was organizing events. But first of all, it's not something I studied for at university. It's not something I thought was so exceptional. Yeah, it's not very special. It's not rocket science. That's what usually you would say. It's not rocket science to do that. Maybe not for me, but maybe for other people, it's a hassle to organize things.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's interesting to look at this exercise and to really have clarity about, yes, but I don't have a degree to become an entrepreneur, but I do have a very unique skill set that will help me along the way to start this company. And also later on in the process, when your company becomes bigger, it's also very interesting to have clarity on your strengths, so that what you not define as your strength, that you find people to fill up those gaps. So in any case, either whether you're starting or are already scaling up, it's a very interesting exercise to get clarity on your unique skill set.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I can imagine, and that also comes from me, like the word clarity. It might have you might be thinking about something that you don't see. maybe, or something that you have all the pieces on the table, but you can't make a puzzle out of it. But then at the same time, what you're saying, and I found it really, really beautiful, is that so it's also about confronting your fears and then naming them and saying like, is this even realistic? Is this also part of clarity? Like also being realistic about, is this a possible scenario, like living on a bridge, no more savings, no more friends, everything? And at the same time, clarity is also about honoring your strengths, honoring your gifts, your unique, unfair advantage. And mentioning that maybe it's not rocket science for you, but maybe it's for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to it. So we have 10 chapters in the Clarity Kit, and all of them tackle a different aspect of what gives you clarity, or what keeps you from having clarity, and then helping you to find clarity. And so fear and strengths are two of the exercises that we do. And there's a bit more there, like your inner compass and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice. And what have you seen? Like, what have you seen when it comes to clients, people gaining clarity? What happens? What happens if you get connected to your inner compass, connected to your intuition? What happens if you boost your confidence because you're aligned? What happens after that?
Sure. Yeah. So I recently did a few interviews with customers, because we want to keep improving the product and our service. It's actually pretty amazing. So some of them have these incredibly big insights, and they're not all entrepreneurs, so they might not all be relevant to maybe our audience. But one of our customers decided not to have children. She was very confused and not sure about that, whether she wanted it or not. And by finding clarity, she found out that actually wanting children was just part of a fear of being alone when she was older, which is not a good reason to have kids. Another person I actually spoke to yesterday has decided to take 5 weeks off and walk the Camino de Santiago. But other people also have smaller insights. We had someone who decided to have a weekly date with her father because he was getting older, and she realized, he was important to her life. And yeah, we have clients who decide, I'm going to start this business, sometimes as a side business, but I'm going to do it because it's been milling around in my head, because there was so much clutter with it as well. They never did something with it. And then as soon as that clutter or snow settles, they've said, well, what's actually the big deal? I'll just start it as a side business and I'll see where it goes. So it's like a super big range of topics, and people often ask us, what's the Clarity Kit for? What kind of clarity will I get? But there's only one kind. There's the clarity about who you are, and from there come a lot of ideas and suggestions about what would be on your path or the right path for you. So yeah, it's a varied set of stuff.
Yeah, and indeed asking that question, like, what kind of clarity will I get? Yeah, that's the magic. Yeah, you don't know. And what I find beautiful is that all have, from my perspective, one thing in common, and that's action. It's making a decision. So something that you probably intuitively knew you wanted to do.
Exactly. I think clarity drives action. Unclarity drives what's the opposite of action?
Standstill?
Procrastination.
Absolutely.
Freezing, like doing nothing.
Ah, there's the snow.
Yeah.
Freezes you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice one.
We're going to extend this metaphor until it's stretched
Yeah.
so thin that it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, clarity drives action. That's so true. It's clarity puts things into motion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually an interesting way of looking
Yeah.
at it. Yeah.
So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur in your day-to-day job, and you're already doing something, like you're already exploring your new business, you have an idea, you've read the 4-Hour Workweek, you're hungry for change, but things are not really happening just yet. Like you take really small steps, you stay in your comfort zone. What will be the one thing to start doing? If there is one thing from the Clarity Kit or from personal experience, what would be your main piece of advice? Like the one thing that they should be doing or could try, explore.
My advice is very in the line of what we've been saying. Book yourself a cabin for 4 days, leave your phone at home, order a Clarity Kit, and go with it. And that's not, it's not for promotion, but it's just because being alone, disconnected from the rest of the world, and doing introspection, that's like a magical recipe. And it's many people they only see the value once they've done it. So that's why I keep on stressing it, because we have done it and we've got a different life now. So it's really impactful. I don't know if you have a better.
No, I love it. I love it. And the reason why you say order a Clarity Kit, I mean, it's just there is no other tool that we know of that guides you through introspection. So, and if there would be, we have enough clarity to just cheer on our competitors, but it just doesn't exist. Well, there is another solution, and that is going to psychotherapy or going on a retreat, which will cost a lot more. But to do it yourself, which is often a core value of entrepreneurs. I mean, we love doing stuff ourselves too. It didn't exist, so we created it. So
that's beautiful.
Not marketing, but it's really, we don't know a better approach to do it yourself.
Yeah, beautiful. So main recipe, so take time for yourself, get disconnected from noise, and just spend time with yourself, and a few powerful exercises to guide you.
Exactly.
And I think that's a wonderful tip, and everyone is able to do that. Like, even if it's just for a weekend, this is always possible. This is always within reach. And I think it also has to do with not setting too high expectations on what should come out of it, because that's already, then already expectations is going sky high. Just maybe something to add from my personal experience, try to lower the expectation, like to bare minimum, and to say, I'm going to do that. I have no clue what comes out. I'm totally uncomfortable and also comfortable with that, and let's give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always amazed me what comes out, but it's not very predictable. Sometimes you're like, wait, I thought I was gonna find answers about what I want to do with my job, and suddenly I'm thinking about my relationship. So indeed, not having expectations helps a lot. And I mean, to your point of everyone has a weekend, I would even dare to say it's part of your job. So it doesn't have to be in the weekend. I do my own introspection also during weekdays, because it makes me better at what I do. And we are also entrepreneurs, clearly. We're doing really trying to boost the Clarity Kit. But introspection is not a waste of time at all. It's time better spent than any kind of marketing we can do. So
time is never the issue.
No.
It's like we all are able to spend I don't know, 2, 3, 4 hours per day on social media, hours on Netflix. And why is that possible? And the rest isn't. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
In the end, we almost never take time to plan our lives. There's even this quote: we take a lot of time planning our holidays. We never take time planning our lives.
Yes. Yeah. Really, really true. I also never considered thinking about like creating a mission for myself or making bold moves into one direction, or mostly it's just what's logic, right?
Yeah.
But no one teaches us this, and apparently we have to figure it out. And at some point, when the market wants it and there is a solution, then it's going really fast. And I'm pretty sure with what you're doing, there's so much demand. Like also only in the Netherlands, like burnout rates are sky high. A lot of people are too busy doing too many things and not planning their life. This would be very, very valuable for everyone. So when it comes to taking action, for those who are listening and thinking like, okay, I want to give it a try. I want to book that cabin, go out and get a Clarity Kit. How can they reach out to you? How can they order Clarity Kit or ask questions to you if they still have questions?
So we have a website. It's www.claritykit.eu. So there is all the information. You can order Clarity Kit. For those people who think of buying it for their company or for their teams, they can send us an email straight away because we have special packages for those. You can send an email at hello@claritykit.eu. And then, you will get in touch with us, and we're happy to talk to you further.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
we also have an Instagram account.
Yes, you're on Instagram. I found you through Instagram, so it's.
What's the exact? Is it Clarity?
@clarity.kit.
.kit.
Yeah.
At clarity.kit. Okay, so for everyone who is curious, go to @clarity.kit on Instagram to see some photos and to follow Carlien and Julie also on their journey. Thank you very much for this interview and taking the time to share your personal experiences, your stories, and also your journey on like how it works and what you've experienced, like how to gain clarity maybe the hard way, and what you're doing now. So thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this, and hopefully everyone who has been listening found it useful, insightful, and you're able to move forward with it. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Niels. It was really fun actually talking about this together. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Likewise. I had a lot of fun as well. So thank you.